Okay, this is the Einstar opening screen. You just go ahead and select New Project Group, create a folder of the name of the person, and then create a file name of that same name that should be nested in there. Select Portrait, Hybrid Alignment, 1 mm, and Texture Scan on. Hit Apply. That'll create the project real quick. Then you'll go ahead with the defaults here. You want the data quality indicator on, texture flashing, and hair mode, and you're ready to go. So the setup is you have your PC behind the participant with just enough room to walk behind him. So that'll give you nice chord length, and they'll be facing forward as you do the scan.
Okay, so what we do is the participant stands in this pose, which is better for animation. So as long as their hands are out, his body's almost in a T pose, which is perfect. But even in A pose, where the hands are down a little bit, is okay as long as there's some separation. That'll help with the animation. So we have these stands here so that they can actually hold that pose without shaking too much. And then you just instruct the participant to gaze into the distance and hold their sight there. That way their eyes aren't moving around and it's easier to stay still. And then instruct the participant that you're going to scan the face and the hands, particularly the face and head first, because they have the most detail, and so you don't want to go over any areas of the face or hands twice. You only do them once. And you're going to try not to scan any part really more than once, but you are going to do the body. You're going to do some overlays there. But the face and the hands, there's so much detail, you want to do them first, particularly the face, and not do them again. So I'm going to go through and do the scan, and this is the exact order I use each time. And this is the more or less the recommended order, and definitely what I've seen to be the most efficient and cleanest order to do the scan in. So with that said, of course you're going to tell the participant to hold their gaze, and once you come around the back of their head, they can relax their face so they can smile. And people do look better if they smile and if their posture is pretty good. But everybody seems happy with their scans. But definitely, that's something you can suggest they might want to do, but that they can relax their face, keep everything else still, relax their face once you've come to the back of their body, because you're not going to scan the face twice, okay? So with all that said, you're going to push this middle button of the scanner once to go into preview mode, and then another time to go into actually recording the scan. And you're constantly going to be looking at the laptop screen, and that's going to show you what you're scanning, which is a square that you're going over, that's being picked up. So you're never actually looking at the person. You're always looking at the screen of the laptop. And on the left-hand side, you'll see this in the video, there's a gauge which shows you the quality, and you want it to be green. You don't want to be scanning too close or too far away. And you want to make sure, of course, you're getting good angles. And then you do it in this order. So we'll go ahead and scan now. Let them know you're about to scan. So as I say, I'll press it once, and you'll see on the screen, there's a preview, and then tell them you're about to scan. I start with the face, and I start directly at the face. That just makes it a little bit easier in the tools later on, but as long as you're starting with the face, okay? And the scanner does not hurt their eyes or in any way, so they can look right at it, and it doesn't strobe or anything, so it won't hurt them. So here we go. I've done preview. Now I'm going to tell them, here we go, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to actually start it by pushing this button again. So here we go. So now we're scanning. Go from the face around to the side. Curly hair, dark hair, and shiny hair is the trickiest, but the scanner is really good. So as you're scanning, you'll see the parts you got a good scan on are in green, then yellow, then red. Red still means you got a scan. It just means it's not as high quality as yellow or green. So you want green. Okay, so we go across. And occasionally you may get a tracking lost message on the screen. That means just go back to a spot that was scanned already in order to, capture the tracking again. And you go at about this pace, okay? Then once you've gotten that, you'll go down and get the hands. So you'll go at all the angles to get the hands. And another thing I should have mentioned, it's completely fine like this, but if they do extend their hands, then you can, if you really want to get into fine detailed animation, you'll be able to animate the fingers easily, but this is fine. So we did the one hand, we come across the back. Do the other hand. Just in slow, steady movements. Okay, and then once you have that, we'll fill in the side. And you can see the square there of the scan. If you see that square, that kind of is a good guide. Okay, come back around the back. And you'll do this you'll get used to this if you do it a few times, but it's this exact motion where come across the back, step over the cord, come down the other side, and then you'll come around the front, down to one side, down the other side, and then you'll just end right there. That's all there is to it. Alrighty, thank you very much. So after that, you'll see you pressed it again, it'll say the scan's done, and it'll just process that. And then the rest of the procedure is on the computer. The scan's over, and you can see it took, between 5 and 10 minutes, and you'll get better and quicker at it. So that's it. Okay, so now we have the scan. From here, you can show the texture, which is already interesting, and most people are, already wowed by this. But this is before you actually generate and optimize the point cloud. So go ahead and do this. And this is fairly quick, maybe a minute or two. At this point, the participant can leave, or this is a good point to, talk to them about what they're working on and things like that. But, you've captured the scan, you've showed them the texture, but it looks a little nicer, the mesh and the texture, after it's done this optimizing and generating. And you have to do this step. No matter how we optimize the workflow in the future, you will need to generate the point clouds from the scan. Um, and so you can't do another scan, of course, unless you have a second computer. And so this is a good point, as I say, to talk to the participant about their use case and such, and their company and get more information on them. Okay, so now that's done. And you can see it looks a bit nicer now. By the way, you hold the middle mouse button down to move the mesh and point cloud around, and you do a left click to rotate it around like this. So you see, this is pretty nice. The scanner picks up nice color, etc. Um, but this is the point cloud, and it's not, it doesn't have any of the smoothing, etc. that I'm going to show you done. But depending on how many people you have in line will determine what you do from here. So what I mean by that is from here, you can go ahead and just save the scan and then do the cropping of the head, and then save that cropped head for printing, for, printing the toothpaste cap. Um, if you want to do more, you can, but that's the quickest approach because, like I said, you're just saving it right here and then doing the head onto the next person. Okay. So regardless, you want to make sure you save this so that you have everything down. And so you're going to save the ASC format, the entire scan, and save it as the person's name is the convention I've been using. Um, and you can call this, the whole scan. From here, we can then go ahead and click the mesh model, and you'll see these settings here to smooth out the mesh, do simplification, and a couple other items here as far as the size of the file and things like that. So the defaults that are here are the ones you want. So that makes it easier. Okay. For scanning a person, these are the defaults we want. And this is going to give us a rather large file, but that's good. It's still manageable. It's gonna be 120 megs or something like that with these settings. So we want high quality, medium filter, and high smoothing. So that's the smoothing is going to the quality selection. Well, first the watertight selection here is going to be what determines filling in those gaps. So you see there are some gaps in especially the head here and the top of the arms. It's going to fill those in, and we want those to be airtight. One, because it's going to look better, and two, because you need it to be airtight for 3D printing. Although the 3D printing software will also have a setting to make it airtight. This is going to make it airtight based on the texture and mesh around it. So it's going to do a better job. So we definitely want that as a watertight model, and then just keeping all the appropriate settings here. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that and hit apply. And so this again is another, you know, couple minutes that you can be talking to the participant, because they will see if they want to stick around, they will see that those areas are filled in, things like that. So different in my experience, different participants, um, stayed different amounts of time. It's probably an average of, uh, you know, maybe up to 50% will stay to see this part. Especially if you have a good conversation going. Some people they'll be wowed by the initial, and they are ready to go during that initial scan when you show them the initial scan results. But others will stick around for this. So again, another opportunity to talk. Okay, so now we see a really nice smoothed out Great colors, like look at the hand detail and all. Really nice. So we'll just confirm that. Okay, so what we'll do is go ahead and save this. Um, and we'll usually I do it as Ronin or as the name full scan. Okay. And we want to again save the whole scan. The other one is the STL file. That's the file that's used for 3D printing. And then the OBJ file. And this will actually save three files. It will save the OBJ file, a texture file, which is a JPEG, and an MTL file. So the texture file is the color that, the um, is overlaid on the mesh. The OBJ file is the most important file. That's the actual mesh. And that contains the information as far as how to overlay the texture, how to overlay the JPEG onto the mesh. And then the MTL file is extremely simple file, only a few lines of text. And that's just telling the OBJ file what texture file to use. It's basically just pointing the OBJ file at that JPEG file in this case. Okay. So we just select those three and save it in that same folder. Hit apply. We're doing it at full scale here. And it'll go through each of the three formats there. This is, and this is another, takes a couple minutes process. Okay, and that actually took less than a minute to save all those, so it's not so long. Now from here, you have a couple options. You can either simplify and save, and that will just make a version of those files, in specifically the OBJ file that's smaller and more appropriate for, if you're going to do animations or other things. You'll want a smaller file because the one we just saved is extremely detailed, which is really nice to give the participant. There's a lot of detail in that mesh. Um, but as I say, for on the in XR or animation or anything like that, you'll want the size to be smaller to be efficient. You can do that now or you can do it later. And when we add in the new pipeline, we will go ahead and do that later because we'll just have the database do the simplification in batches. Okay. So to do that, you would just simplify it down, bring it down. As I say, to animation, you could bring it down to like, 20 uh, as far as the size. And then you apply it, confirm it, and then save it. And then I just save it with the suffix simplified. But again, especially if you have a line, this doesn't take so long, but you will save time if you just, at the event, if you just do this later. Okay. Um, the other thing you'll want to do, and again, you can do this later, is to remove this base and these poles here. Okay. And I will show you that the editing tools for that real quickly. But again, you can do this later, not at the event, because it's going to take time. Okay, so what we're going to do is do this editing later. That's why we save the project file. And right now, we're just going to take the head for the 3D printing. Now, this is a good example because it's a little tricky because he has long hair. Okay. And so what we're doing right now is we're cutting the hair to do the print. If you have time, you could do fancy things like have the hair actually come off the back, but that's definitely more, that's definitely going to take more time. And not something you're going to want to do if you have a line, obviously. Okay, so what you're going to do is select straight line. Most people do not have good posture. So you're going to, instead of doing a straight line, you're going to do a bit of a diagonal, and that will make it look nicer on when you put it on the toothpaste cap and print it out. So select this cutting tool, and then you're going to hold the shift key and then hold the left mouse button and drag to draw a line. Okay. And so generally the lower the better. So this is not going to be a great line. Let's see. I'll just to show you how to unselect. So then go ahead and let go, and it's going to select, you know, all of the part you want to take away. So this is not too bad. It's fairly symmetric. But you'll see here you can do an unselect. And everybody's different. So um, what's going to look good depends on the person. But that's pretty good. We don't want this hair here. And of course, you can do it multiple times. So we'll go ahead. We have this selected, right? And then you go ahead and delete the selected data, the different colored data here. Go ahead and delete that. And then we'll take out these looser parts here because you have to imagine that this is going to be sitting on that base. So it's going to be sitting on the base like this. So that looks pretty good. We just want to get rid of this hanging part here. So we'll go ahead, come in with the straight line. And again, it has to be straight line all the way across. So you don't want to be cutting multiple sections. It has to be one plane. So I'll go ahead and draw a line like this, just to trim out that side bit there. And go ahead and delete that. Okay. And so again, it's going to sit like this. This is a good example because this is a tricky one because of the long hair and the fact that it's pretty thick in the back. But that's good. And you don't have to spend a ton of time with it. As long as you get something like that, it'll sit on the base. So his head is tilted up a bit, but again, it's all right. So that'll look pretty good. So we'll go ahead with this. And once everything looks okay, you apply the edit. Of course, you can cancel it or undo. We'll go ahead and apply that. Okay. And if we don't need to do the texture remapping because we didn't do such drastic changes. Okay. But we'll go ahead and save this. And we'll call this just the head. Okay. And we really only need the STL for this. Because the whole point of this, just getting ahead, is to do the printing. Okay, so just the STL for that. And that's all. As I say, you can move on to the next scan from here. And with that process, saving the simplification and other stuff of the actual full body scan for later or for the database to do in a batch is going to allow you to move on and do the next scan, right? And so scanning and everything I mentioned here should take no more than 15 minutes. So you should be getting at least 4 scans per hour. And then, like I say, from here, you can go ahead and click on finished and confirm that the mesh data will be deleted. And then you can go back here and, remove this project. And that's going to bring you into the, scan and process to start your next one. Okay. And that's all there is to it.